Could the Dolphins be making a major trade before the November 4th NFL trade deadline with the Seattle Seahawks for cornerback Riq Woolen? I think this is an idea that you might laugh at first because the Dolphins are not contending, at least as of right now, for a Super Bowl or even maybe a wild card spot. But I'll explain why this may be a good decision for the Fins before that November 4th deadline. But first, let's get the backstory on Woolen here because he certainly may be available for trade. Ian Rappaport tweeted about it this past weekend. Obviously, Seattle played on Thursday Night Football. They got the win on the road. They're 3-1. Devin Witherspoon, their CB1, finally returned off of injury. Well, Riq Woolen has been getting kind of phased out of that Seahawks defense. His playing time has been diminished. He's in a contract year, and a lot of teams around the NFL believe he could be available for trade before that deadline on November 4th. And I am certainly intrigued. I don't know how you couldn't be. With how badly the Dolphins need secondary help, and even though the secondary has played better over the past couple of weeks, there is still no long-term solution at corner in this organization. So Riq Woolen could be a good idea. If you are unfamiliar with his game, let me inform you. He was a 5th-round pick in 2022 out of UTSA, and he flashed onto the scene as a rookie. Led the NFL in interceptions, co-leader, but same thing. And he actually made the NFL Pro Bowl. But the reason why he's such a fascinating player is because of his intangibles and his unbelievable physical traits. He's still only 26 years old. He is 6'4", 210 pounds, and here's the kicker. And it's the part that made him such an intriguing draft prospect. He ran a 4.2640 at 6'4", 210. An absolute massive corner that can absolutely fly. He's got such physically gifted traits. And it's just like you see the flashes on the football field of when he plays in the right scheme with the right technique that he can be a top corner in the NFL. And if the Dolphins ever did make a trade, we would let you know about it first over on Twitter. At Nick_Roloff is my handle. If you're a Dolphins fan and you don't follow me on Twitter, I don't know what you're waiting for, and you're missing out because we're tweeting out about highlights, news, and everything you need to know. So go give me a follow right now. Now, it's been certainly an interesting couple of seasons for Woolen because he flashed onto the scene, as I mentioned. Pro Bowl as a rookie, 5th-round pick, and looked like him and Devin Witherspoon were going to be an elite cornerback duo in Seattle for years to come. His first 3 seasons, he was great. Sure, he gave up 14 touchdowns. He does gamble a little bit in terms of trying to take the ball away. As you see, 11 career interceptions, and he had 28 PBUs, but allowed a 57% completion percentage and 14 tutties, and a QB rating of 78.9. But you look at this season, it certainly hasn't been as sharp. 66.7 completion percentage, 10 receptions on 15 targets, allowing 145 yards, 1 score, and a QB rating when targeted of 120.1. Woolen was absolutely sensational the first 2 years of his career as a rookie and a sophomore for the Seattle Seahawks. But ever since they hired the new head coach, they have not used him, and he has not succeeded like he did early in his career. Obviously, the new coach, Mike Macdonald, who came from the Baltimore Ravens, Seahawks head coach, this is his second year. And it's no coincidence that Macdonald joins the Seahawks, implements his defensive scheme, his play calling, and that is exactly when Woolen started to fall off. He simply is not really meshing into this new Seahawks defense. But the talent is there. I mean, we've seen the talent on the field be successful. We've seen it be Pro Bowl caliber as a rookie. So to me, if he is truly available on the trade market, this is a player that I would be willing to gamble on and potentially make a trade for if he is available at the deadline. So would you be on my side? Would you trade for Riq Woolen if he was available? Type T for trade, type P for pass. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. Now, the value for Woolen is where it gets a little bit tricky because all the reasons that I spoke positively on Woolen are wiped away by the fact he has struggled a little bit the past 365 days, as well as he has no years left after this on his contract. So if you trade for Woolen, you either only going to have him for the rest of the season or you are going to have to commit long-term to him. Now, a projected trade value, as I talked to some other people and saw on Bleacher Report, is a 2026, this year, conditional 4th-round pick. Early day 3 pick with conditions certainly makes me a little intrigued even more. And on Bleacher Report, they listed a pair of teams that are the most likely destinations or suitors for Riq Woolen, and it was the Las Vegas Raiders and Miami Dolphins. And I have to agree, even though the Dolphins may not be contending, I think anytime a young corner could be available on the trade market, Miami should be involved in that potential trade. And the Dolphins have right now 9 projected first-round picks, or not first round, I wish, total picks in 2026. They have their 1st and 2nd. They have their 3rd. They have an extra 3rd-round pick. Remember when the Dolphins traded back in this draft? They traded their 4th-round pick to get a 3rd-rounder from the Texans. It's still unclear if it's from the Texans or Giants, but they have 2 3rd-rounders this year. They have a 4th-round pick of their own, right? But they also are projected to get a 4th-round comp pick for the loss of Jevon Holland, who signed that 3-year, $48 million deal with the New York Giants. So you have picks to use in day 3 and in the 3rd round, multiple, to potentially go out and trade for a corner like Woolen. And I think an early day 3 pick is more than fair for a 26-year-old corner who has flashed before and is just a little bit down on his luck right now because of a scheme fit in Seattle. I believe Woolen would be able to regain a lot of his form and be I wouldn't say an elite, like lockdown CB1, but we're talking about a guy that would be an above average, top 35 corner in football. And that's just something Miami doesn't have. And then when you factor in his youth, being 26 years old and being the future of the CB room, and you're like, okay, now this makes even more sense potentially for the Miami Dolphins. More coming up here in a second, but this episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. You and I make decisions every single day. The right decisions on PrizePicks can get you paid. PrizePicks so simple to play. You just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats. If you get your picks right, you could cash in. Follow other PrizePicks players directly on the app and copy their lineups in one click, whether it's a friend, a celebrity partner, or just someone whose picks you like. Hit the follow button and check out every lineup they create in the new feed tab on PrizePicks. I have an entry in for this week. More than Chuba Hubbard rushing yards. We'll see if he ultimately plays on Sunday against Miami. More than Jaylen Waddle touchdowns. And then more than Cam Scadaboo rushing yards. That's my 3-player entry. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. It's good to be right. And not only Riq Woolen makes sense for Miami, but I think making a trade for a corner is also something Miami should look into. I think trading for one at the deadline makes a lot of sense. I don't care if we stink. Go grab a young corner who might be cheap and available on the trade market, right? Like, it just makes a lot of sense for me to go out and grab a corner like that. Like, you don't have a future in Miami. You don't. Like, Rasul Douglas has been really solid, but 1-year deal. Also 30 years old. Jack Jones, 1-year deal. Maybe you re-sign him, but he doesn't feel like a guy that you're going to build your cornerback room around. Yeah, you drafted Jason Marshall Jr. in the 5th round, but he was really, really bad prior to getting hurt and being placed on IR. And I don't think you can confidently say Juju Brents, Ethan Bonner, or Cornell Armstrong are going to be on this team going forward in a locked-in matter. Like, the point I'm making here is that you really have no future at corner. You don't have a young guy that you're excited to potentially watch develop. You don't have a guy that is blossoming as a younger player. Like, you just don't have anything. So it's like, why wouldn't you want to go out there and potentially make a trade for a young corner that can build up on this team? And my point I'm trying to make as well here is, you're going to probably try to sign a corner in free agency. But the corners in free agency, like, aren't that good. The top free agent 2026 corners, Riq Woolen is the number 1 guy, in my opinion. You can also argue Greg Newsome, the Browns corner. Like, he's someone. Marcus Jones, the nickel corner for New England. Cam Taylor-Britt has had some plays in Cincinnati. Jaylen Watson. Like Josh Jobe has been good. You have your own Kader Kohou who's going to be a free agent, but that's a nickel guy, not an outside number one corner. Like there are okay names out there that are relatively young, anywhere between 25 and 28. But the point I'm going to make again here is I think the best one is Riq Woolen. Like he is the best free agent corner. So why wouldn't you go out and grab one now? Like I think the top two corners in free agency next year are going to be Riq Woolen and Greg Newsome. So, like, if both of them are potentially going to be available via trade, go out and grab one. Like, I will make the same point with Woolen as I will for Greg Newsome. I would trade with the Browns at the deadline for the former first-round pick out of Northwestern. I just would. It makes so much sense for the Dolphins to go out and make a trade like this. It really, really does. And if the Dolphins do make a trade, we'll have you covered here on the channel. And heck, we'll probably go live on the channel to react to the trade as well. So subscribe today, join the Dolphins Today family, and if a trade happens, we'll have you covered. Newsome had an excellent week one against the Cincinnati Bengals. Has had a couple down weeks here, but still pretty solid numbers for the player on his final fifth-year option. 12 receptions allowed on 17 targets, no touchdowns, QB rating of 98.4. Like, Newsome's fluid. He's got good size to him. I like the way he plays. Like, I think his trade value might slightly be higher than Riq Woolen's. Like, his could be a third-round pick, flat out, not a conditional fourth. His trade value could also be a conditional fourth, just like Riq Woolen's is. So, it's interesting, and we'll see how the market ultimately works out when we get closer to the deadline. Do the Seahawks trade Woolen? Do the Browns sell Greg Newsome? Or do extensions happen? I mean, those are conversations that we'll see, but I certainly believe some people could be available at the cornerback position. Final word on today's show. We're closing out here. The Bears, just a couple years ago, were not a good football team. They were not. But what did they do? They traded their second-round pick for Montez Sweat, even though they stunk, because they were like, we think Montez Sweat is a guy that will ultimately grow and be a top edge rusher in the league, and we just feel like if we get him now and extend him, it would be better use than drafting a young edge rusher in the second round. So I don't think it's a bad idea to potentially follow that strategy. You trade a third or fourth round pick for a Newsome, a Woolen, get a young corner that you can cement in your secondary as either CB1 or CB2 for years to come, extend them, and then you can use the other draft picks you have in the first round, the second round, the third round to add to that cornerback room. And now you have two young corners, or you can use it to help your offensive line, defensive line, grab a quarterback. Like, it gives you more flexibility. That's why I think if Woolen or Newsome are available and you can grab one of them for a fourth-round pick, like, please do that. I would be pretty pissed if Miami actually didn't do that, to be honest. All right, I'll do it for today's show. As I mentioned off the top, if the Dolphins make any trade, we'll have you covered with it first over on my social media before making a video on the channel. So follow me over on social media. @Nick_Roloff is my handle on Twitter/X. That's where I'm the most active.